The Tampa Bay Lightning's playoff run is over as they fell in Game 5 to the Florida Panthers last night. Many are speculating that this is the end of the Lightning dynasty that captured 2 Stanley Cups. Steven Stamkos, the captain, is set to be a free agent. Most of the core is in their 30s and are starting to show signs of decline. But to see the dynasty end like this, not with a bang but with a whimper as they get absolutely outmuscled by little brother in the Florida Panthers, how did it come to this? How did the Tampa Bay Lightning get bodied by the Panthers in the first round? Well, the first reason is a problem that's been plaguing the Lightning all year, and that's lack of forward depth. And I'm looking in particular at that second-line combination of Anthony Duclair, Anthony Cirelli, and Brandon Hagel. Over the series, that trio combined for 3 goals, all from Brandon Hagel, and a combined 9 points. That line was the worst on the team and 8th worst among all playoff teams in expected goal percentage while on the ice. Because they could not generate any semblance of offense, they actually ranked 8th worst in terms of expected goals for per 60 of all lines in the playoffs, below even some 4th lines like the Rangers VC Goudreau-Rimpey line, and just barely above the Panthers' 4th line of Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and Kiefer Sherwood. And none of them, absolutely none of them, had a positive on-ice expected goal percentage. And for 3 guys who cost a fair chunk of change, including Duclair, who was acquired at the deadline, that's not what you need in a series against a top team like the Panthers. Now, the second major reason why the Tampa Bay Lightning bowed out in 5 games to the Panthers is because of their power play. On the surface, their power play looked like it did pretty well in this series. They converted on 20% of their power plays in this series, which is down from their 28.6% in the regular season, but that was the best in the NHL, so they still ended up being middle of the pack. But they actually had the worst expected goal percentage of any team when they were on the power play in the playoffs. And yes, that includes the Washington Capitals, who gave up 2 shorthanded goals and only scored 2 of their own. Tampa Bay did give up a shorthanded goal in this series, and they had one of the lowest expected goal 5-on-4 of any team in the playoffs, despite having the most time on the power play of any team through 5 games. And the reason is quite simply that Tampa just couldn't generate enough high-quality scoring chances, and they couldn't finish on the ones that they did get, which is why their power play was ultimately so underwhelming. The third and final thing that doomed the Tampa Bay Lightning in this series was their defense. Now, this is in part because they were a little depleted, obviously not having Mikhail Sergachev for the first 3 games of the series, but when you're only 2 defensemen with a positive on-ice expected goal percentage are Maxwell Crozier and Darren Radish, that's just a recipe for disaster. Guys like Matt Dumba and Eric Chernak and Nick Perbix were just getting their faces caved in throughout this series, and Sergachev, God bless him for playing, but when he came back, he was wholly ineffective against that speedy Florida team. And then there's their number 1 defenseman, their blue line anchor, Victor Hedman. I mean, I get it, he had to eat a lot of minutes for this team. You have got to be a net positive player out there, which unfortunately Hedman was not for most of the series. But at least he was contributing offensively with 1 goal and 3 assists in the series, and he was driving play offensively, leading defenseman in shots, which is why his Corsi 4 was above 50. But when you see a guy like Eric Chernak getting the 2nd most ice time among defensemen and putting up a 39% Corsi 4 and a 33% on-ice expected goal for ratio, the Lightning just had no chance. So now the Lightning enter another offseason, this one filled with a lot of uncertainty, as we don't know what's happening with Steven Stamkos and whether management will decide to reset and build around Nikita Kucherov, but at least this Lightning dynasty struck twice for the Stanley Cup.